Good morning, everyone. I'm Kathleen Warshawsky, and you are here with Kathleen and Hayley for Opportunities for Connection During Isolation. Kathleen Warshawsky, that's myself. I am the publisher of Seniors Blue Book and the president of the Dallas Area Gerontological Society. I'm here today representing Seniors Blue Book. Ms. Hayley Moseley is joining me, and Hayley is the manager of Life Enrichment at CC Young Senior Living. So welcome, Hayley. I'm going to unmute her because I can't. There we go.
I'm so glad I could be here today.
Perfect. And so we are going to be talking about opportunities for connection during our period of isolation here. Our learning goals today are to identify opportunities that have been created during this difficult time and strategies to maximize these opportunities. We're going to implement strategies to create improved connections between the facility and the community, identify the needs of the activity department to implement a new model of care and resources that assist with meeting those needs, and we're going to provide resources for a new model of care. I did include a link for everyone in the RSVP, so hopefully you were able to see that. In that link were some resources that Hayley's going to talk about a little bit later on. And so if you didn't get that, we'll be able to send it to you again when we send your evaluation certificates of attendance today. And now we're going to hear from Jennifer Griffin over at CC Young.
Hi everyone, my name is Jen Griffin and I'm Senior Director of Community Outreach at CC Young. CC Young is in East Dallas. We are a CCRC, a life plan community on 20 acres. In a single site with a full continuum of care on our campus as well as in 13 counties in North Texas. However, I'm really not here to talk to you about CC Young. I want to talk to you about the word for 2020. And the word for 2020 for all of us is pivot. COVID-19 has forced everyone on this call and everyone in our world really to stop and go a different direction doing things. And like you, that means for us, we have adapted everything we do here for the last 90 days in operations and communications and our life enrichment and programming for our residents and our connection with residents and families. Everything has been enhanced, I would say. While we've dropped some things out, we've added so much on, it still sort of feels normal around here with as much as we're doing. So I would tell you that in my world, everything has a silver lining and you can always learn something. But specifically with COVID-19, I think the silver lining and the blessing of all of this is that it has forced us all to stop a minute, slow down, and really take a hard look at everything we're doing and come up with different ideas, different efficiencies, different ways to operate than we maybe have done before. So, like all of you, we've had a great opportunity to change some things. We've had a great opportunity to test some things. We know what works better than before, and we know what we still like the old way we did. But I have to say I'm so proud of our life enrichment team for the way they've adapted given all the restrictions. And our point outreach team that responds to the community has done remarkable things on our campus. Hayley Moseley is an amazing young woman, and Hayley has been integral in the success of everything we've done with regard to programming for our licensed services. She's pretty amazing, as you will find out in a few moments. Beyond that, though, I would like to say, speaking for Hayley and for myself, one of our favorite words is collaboration. And so if there's anything, any tidbit that you pick up from her presentation or anything that comes across your path that you may want to flesh out or talk about, and you feel like there's maybe some question or something we could do to help, please reach out and let us know. We would love to assist anybody, anywhere, any way we can. Meanwhile, buckle up, stay tuned, and Hayley Moseley's on the way. Thanks.
Thanks, Jen, for that intro to Hayley. Hayley, we'll have you go ahead and take it from here.
Sure. Sure. Can we enable the chat feature?
I will work on that while you are talking. How does that
Okay, that's fantastic. I have a couple of questions I'd love for you guys to answer for me. So welcome everybody. I am so blessed and honored to be here to talk to you about some of the things that we are learning about residents throughout this time of change and difficulty and just this whole new normal that's coming about. So as I have been working with my team here at CC Young, we have seen a lot of wonderful positives that have happened and a lot of ways that we can adapt to what we're currently doing. And it's not just activities, it's the way that all staff has come together to really make a better connection with the residents and with one another during this time. I am also working with a consulting company called Active Times Consulting, and we have several meetings with them that we, I'm trying to advance the slide, there we go. We have been talking about how we approach this season, how we approach life going forward, because we are all expecting that it's going to be a long time before things go back to normal. And honestly, things will probably never go back to normal. So this presentation was put together with a connection through Active Times Consulting. Active Times has a COVID task force that meets regularly to talk about the struggles that we're having and the ways that we're overcoming the different things that are happening. You can visit Active Times Consulting at activetimes.com. CC Young Senior Living is at ccyoung.org. I'm also the president of the Activity Professionals Association of Greater Dallas, and that's available at apagd.com. So all of these different groups that I have been working with to learn what we're seeing, what's happening, and some of the best approaches, best strategies, and the best ideas to really integrate our lives with our residents and create more meaningful engagement. So, leaders plan for change. When we are looking at how we are addressing a program, a system, a community, we're always aware that change is going to happen. This change is so different than anything we ever changed. I'm sorry, than we've ever The first question we wanted to ask is, how has the pandemic changed how activity professionals work? We sat down and looked at what is the change, what is the new strategies that have to happen with in-room activities, small groups, and then with residents that have dementia. Do they even need to be constrained to their room? What is that cost to benefit ratio of having them in that reduced activity level to not, sorry, had a distraction coming in. Sorry about that, guys. How do we handle the residents that have dementia? How do we get them to engage in their room versus out of their room? And what are the benefits to that? What are the opportunities that we've had? What have we seen? So we want to reframe activities. We want to reframe what is happening from large group activities to individual, one-on-one, hands-on stuff. And the thing that we have seen the most is in the last few months, we have actually seen more positive psychosocial outcomes from COVID-19 with a good activities department, with a good team, than we did before when we were doing large group activities. So one study showed that 70% of residents do not get any benefit from group activities. 70%. So when you think about an activity professional, when you think about a facility and what the day-to-day life looks like, so many facilities have group activities going on from 9 to noon and 1 to 5. But when you think that 70% of residents are not actively getting engagement with that, are we really spending our time the best way that it needs to be spent? When the shutdowns happened, we had to cancel all activities and we started going in rooms. We started looking at how can we bring this to them, and each one-on-one interaction is proving to be more fruitful than the group activities were. Now, there is some pushback because we have residents who receive their greatest joy from group activities. They're very social people, they're very outgoing people, and they still need that outlet. And that's not saying that those people are necessarily not hurting. They are still hurting. They are still needing that group interaction, and they still need that socialization, but we're actually being able to get more information out of them during those one-on-one times than we ever did in a group. So one-on-one interaction is one of the most important things that we can do as proponents of senior living and senior care. We're also seeing increased person-centered care. So when we're doing a group activity, we work really hard at making those group activities person-centered. How do I connect with each resident individually during this specific event that we're having? But when you're doing an in-room activity, we have to be a lot more challenged to make sure that this thing that we're bringing to them is a lot more person-centered, because if it's not person-centered, they're not going to initiate independently. And that's the big bugaboo that we're dealing with, is how do we encourage these residents to initiate activities independently? It's got to be meaningful. It's got to be purposeful. It's got to be away from busy work. Nobody wants to do busy work. That includes us. That's something that we have to do with all the residents. We can't just bring them something to keep them busy. It has to be something that's engaging. We're also seeing an increased flexibility in scheduling. What do the calendars look like right now? Our structure of everyday activity calendar is not accurate anymore. That whole paradigm of a structured calendar doesn't work when none of those structured activities are happening. So we have had to completely reframe the way activities are serviced. So we still have a structure, we still have a framework. We are still able to say that Tuesday mornings we're doing exercise from 9 to 10. That still has to happen, but the interactions, the actual delivery of that system has totally changed. So we're seeing a lot more flexibility in scheduling. Another thing that we're seeing with the positive psychosocial outcomes is that the staff is becoming more engaged with the residents because they are spending more time in resident rooms instead of sitting and observing an activity. Because sometimes what happens is an activity happens, everybody's hanging out in the dining room, everybody's in the living room listening to the activity director. Well, one CNA is probably supposed to be responsible for sitting in the room and observing, helping with pericare, toileting, dealing with food, any kind of issues that come up, any communicative behavior that needs to be addressed. That's what the CNA is there for, to step in. But now the CNA is not doing that. Now she's spending more time in the rooms connecting with residents. But one thing that we need to really consider when you're looking at those CNAs is that CNA creating meaningful engagement? I want to direct us to the Meaningful Engagement project. HHS set up a program last year in 2019 where they had an activity consultant traveling across the state speaking to facilities where they were not having meaningful engagement. They could have gotten a tag because of their lack of meaningful engagement. So this was set up by a grant, and this was the consultant went into each facility and trained staff on how to make every interaction an engaging interaction. So not just, here's your clothes, let's get dressed, but what would you like to wear today? Oh, this blue is lovely. It matches your eyes. What other things are blue? What's your favorite color of blue? Do you like dark blue or light blue better? So when we start thinking about those meaningful engagements, every moment becomes meaningful. Every moment becomes purposeful. It's not just eating for eating's sake. It's dining, not just eating. So if you go to that link takes you to the learning portal. Oops. That link takes you to the learning portal at HHS, and you have some courses there. There's a course on meaningful engagement. That is a 4-hour, completely free CEU available for CNAs, for staff. I highly encourage, if you are leading a group, a team, then you watch it yourself and then you take those concepts and teach them to your team. Because right now we're seeing more positive psychosocial outcomes with residents on in-room engagement, because we're depending on not just letting the activity director do it, but making it an entire team approach. One of the reasons that one-on-one activities are working, and one of the reasons why we're seeing this benefit, is because we're going back to the basics. All right, I need your help. So what I want you guys to think about, I want you to think about if you were to have something catastrophic happen and you were going to go into a long-term care facility. What is one thing that you would need to let the staff know that they should do for you to make you happy every day? Go ahead, pull that up in the chat box. What would you want them to know about you that would make your day happy? My mother, hers was, I want my sweet tea. She wants sweet tea all day, every day. That's the only thing she drinks and the only thing she's gonna drink, so don't bother her with coffee in the morning. But she needs tea. Okay, so I'm seeing to smile, to move my body, express myself, to connect. Oh, that's my friend Jewel. Of course it is, to move and express herself. I love you, Jewel. Ron singing. Oh, Ron, you've never sung for me. I'd love to hear it. Show tunes, coffee in the morning. Oh, I love it. Kathleen wants to wear her pajamas and happy socks. Oh, pets. Pets is a great thing. Family phrases. Friendly faces, chocolate, quiet time. Quiet time is so important. And if you have one of those bubblegum activity directors, as I call them, hi, Kathleen, how are you today? I'm so happy to see you. You would not get any quiet time, but for something like Veronica, you really need that quiet time. Decaf Americano, that's my girl. Ocean sound machine. The sunshine. Hi, Trudy. Opening sun and seeing the sun every day. Thank you guys for interacting there. So this is a triangle of engagement here. And what this shows us are the types of activities that a person is engaged in every day. And when I talk about activities, I don't just mean the things an activity professional is providing. I'm talking about your ADLs. I'm talking about your dining experience. I'm talking about what it's like when you travel from your bedroom to the living room. That's an activity, even though it's not done by the activity professional. So in this pyramid, we have at the top the special, seasonal, themed, and recurring events. Those are your birthday parties, your Christmas celebrations, your grandparents' day. That's at the top. The middle is your interest in social-based groups. This is your sewing group, your computer club, your men's club, your Rotary Club, your Lions Club, your bowling league, your slam poetry group, all those groups and clubs, your life group at church, your Sunday school class, your Bible study group, your ladies' tea, your friends that just go out for tea every once in a while. Those are your interest in social-based groups. And the bottom is your daily habits and lifestyle preferences. So those are the things that I have to have every day to make me happy. The things that make me feel like my day is starting. The things that make me feel like you know who I am. The things that make me feel normal. So when I asked you guys, what is the one thing that you would want the staff to know? All of you said, daily habits and lifestyle preferences. From what I've seen so far in the comments, I think more comments have come up. Nobody said, I need a 7-foot tall Christmas tree. Nobody said, my sewing club once a week. You talked about those daily habits. I need to listen to music every day. I need my blinds open every day. These are those daily habits and lifestyle preferences that we have to be doing with our residents every day. And because of the restriction of COVID, when we are completely removing the top 2 tiers of the pyramid, we're getting back to what the residents are really wanting. I want my tea every morning. Sometimes we get so busy with what we're doing, we forget what those needs are. We can also look at Maslow's triangle of the things that we need to feel self-fulfilled. And at the bottom's physical comfort, safety and security, love and connection. And those things are all happening out of the daily habits and lifestyle preferences that those residents need. So we are seeing the opportunity to make better connections with the residents through one-on-one activities. And when the world opens back up and everything is back to normal, we can't forget about the bottom part of that pyramid. We can't go back to what we were doing before and only forcing this resident to come to choir every morning and bingo every afternoon, because he wasn't getting anything out of that. But when he was in his room and he's watching videos of wood turning, like I was doing with a resident this morning, now he's really connecting. So we need to continue that even after this is over. The next thing that we're seeing is we're seeing an increase in family relationships. So when family members came in before COVID, they would come in, check in with the nurses station. If there was an issue, they'd talk about an issue, but then they just go straight onto the resident's room. They go in, shut the door, sit down, and have a lovely visit with the resident. Now, do we necessarily know what's going on in that room? No. Do we trust it's safe? That yes, that's not where I'm going. We don't know what they talk about. We don't know how they interact. We don't know what they're doing when they engage. But now we do. Now, when the family is doing a FaceTime with the resident, we are there because we are having to facilitate this communication between the family member and the resident. The residents can't necessarily hold the phone. They can't type in the buttons to connect to Skype. So we're in there engaging with them. And so now we're engaging in more casual communication between the staff member and the families. So, for example, I was sitting in a FaceTime Skype with a family member, and so I had the wife on my phone and the loved one sitting in, the husband, in his chair. He's not very alert, so he doesn't respond very much when even I'm touching his arm and he's not giving me a lot of response. That's normal for him. We have to find him at the right time of the day to be able to have a meaningful engagement with him. But I had to take this and I had to make this meaningful. So the family member is talking about the weather, her day. He's not really responding. So I asked her, I said, ma'am, tell me how you met your husband. And now I'm creating a meaningful engagement. And she starts telling the story of when she and her husband met when they were in college. So I am affirming her, I am validating her, I am helping her have a meaningful engagement in her memory and a meaningful engagement with her husband because he recognized the story and he gave her a smile. And that simple smile shows me that I am creating a moment of joy in his life that he wouldn't have had if I was up there doing a trivia game listing all the things that are red. Wouldn't have connected with him. But him hearing the story of his wife meeting connected with him. We also are using these times to help direct resident communication with their family members. Another situation, I was on the phone with a family member and his dad, and the family member only wanted to talk about COVID. He was talking about the death rates, talking about the morgues overflowing, going on and on about all these horrible things that are happening. And the resident who has dementia is aware something's going on, but doesn't really understand the implications of COVID, is starting to have a physical reaction. He's getting agitated, he's getting anxious, and we have to be really careful to protect our residents, even from their family members, when a trend like this is happening. So I had to jump in and I had to say that, wait a minute, this is great. Tell me a story about what your dad would do when you got in trouble. Tell me a story about your dad when you would go on vacation. I think that's the one I picked. I said, when you go on vacation with your dad, what did y'all do? And now he started telling the story of his vacation. And his father noticeably and visibly relaxed and started engaging with the family member, talking about this vacation that they went on. So we are triggering memories because we are guiding that communication with the staff, with the resident and their loved one, the family member. So we are seeing more communication with them. We also are doing more photos and video documentation. There are some really awesome programs out there. There are some apps that you can put on your phone. I actually had one for my daughter's daycare, but they make some for seniors where you have a, every family member has a certain log on or passcode. So in the middle of an activity, I can document my individual activities. I can take a picture of a resident and I tag the resident in the photo, and the family gets a notification on their phone, ding, your loved one was tagged in this photo, and it shows them the photo. So all day long, they can be checking in, and whatever the activity director or the CNA puts on that portal is connected to the family member, and that is HIPAA secure, and usually that is not used for medications, it's not used for medical issues, it's only for social interactions, photos of the family, announcements about events, things that are going on, that sort of thing. It's not anything that is medically necessary. So you can use those, and a lot of facilities have them, and they're a really great program. CCM doesn't have that, but because of COVID, we are seeing that we are doing that anyway. We are taking more photos, we're sending them to families, we are emailing families, we're talking to families every week. We've seen an increased communication between us and families, and we also have some really awesome social media campaigns that are coming from those things that we're doing in those one-on-one interactions with the residents. We also have family members that are right now sitting at home worried. I'm not doing enough for my dad. What can I do to help him out? How can I be of help? Can I bring something for my dad? And that's so hard because some of the things that they want to bring, things like we have a man that wants to bring a chocolate shake. We can't guarantee that we can hook it up the stairs in time to keep that chocolate shake from melting. So what we do, we have chocolate shake Thursdays, just so you know. So every Thursday he still gets his chocolate shake, even though his son can't bring it to him. But the families are looking for something to do. So this is a great opportunity for us to reach out and ask our families to create individualized engagement tools. They could create a life story collage put together with either photos or magazine cutouts of things that my mom has done in her life. Here's a sewing basket. Here's a pretty white fluffy cat that reminds her of the cat she had when the kids were younger. Here is her favorite sports team and images of her favorite sports team. And so we have that life story collage in front of us that we can hang in her room, and she can refer to it and talk about those different things. Or a staff member can go in and, what a beautiful white cat. Tell me about this white cat. And while they're getting dressed in the morning, they can talk about that beautiful white cat that she had when the kids were growing up. Personal activity preference scrapbooks. So instead of doing one big page, the family can make you a book, like a photo album of all the different things. Now, one of the things that families try to do is, well, I'll just put you a photo album together. That's great, but unless you go through and you put a description with every single photo as to who these people are, when this was taken, and what was happening, a resident with dementia is not necessarily going to be able to use that to reminisce because they don't recognize those people. Now, we can continue to have interaction with them. How do you think these people were feeling at that time? What do you think they're doing right now? Where do you think they are? They could be in Mississippi. Could be Mississippi. It looks like Mississippi. What do you think they're going to do next? All those meaningful engagement moments are available by looking at a picture. But the question, who is that? When was this taken? Those set up a resident to fail. And honestly, I have the same problem. You show me a picture of a random baby. Is that my cousin or my other cousin? Or my cousin's kid, because they all look the same. So that's not just a dementia thing, that's an everybody thing. So they can create a preference scrapbooks with not just photos, but with things that are interesting to the residents, things that remind them of the residents, the alma mater that they went to from their college education, all those kinds of things. Picture stories, activity interest scrapbooks, very similar to a preference scrapbook. Picture stories, so a story told with pictures. Memory basket, so these are hands-on things to hold. Having things to hold is really helpful when you're having a resident, especially a resident with dementia. Something to hold, to talk about is really helpful. A family tree. We're doing an awesome thing right now where we were FaceTiming a family member, and then on the whiteboard, we were drawing out the resident's family tree and connecting her kids to her grandkids to her great-grandkids. That was a really fun activity. And you can have families create those and send them in, and we can talk to them, and then we can stalk their Facebook pages and look, oh, there's Georgie. Georgie is Sarah's son. Sarah is Marley's daughter. And so now we're creating a connection for a resident who can't remember their great-great-grandkids. Because let's face it, when you have 36 great-great-grandkids, they're hard to keep up with. Looking at the chat box here, meaningful questions or conversation to pass on activities to coordinators. Absolutely. The meaningful questions are things that relate to their feelings and their options. You always have to have them open-ended. How does this make you feel? And that's a great social work question. I know, I'm speaking to you social workers out there. Conversation talk. So I can create a list. Let me write this down. I'm gonna create a list of engaging questions for you. And I'm gonna send that to Kathleen to see if she can send that back out for you. So I teach a strategy called the 4 I's, an idea. You can always talk about an idea. I had this idea. I want to think about these ideas. What would you do if? You can talk about an image. There's a picture on the wall. You want to have on every resident's wall some picture that is soothing or calming to them. And you have to find out what that is. For my mentor, Natalie, her picture is a yellow lab. She loves yellow labs. That's the thing that's going to calm her down. For me, it's a desert. I want to look at a beautiful desert scene with sand and wide open spaces and a blue sky, and you could just smell the desert sand. For other people, it's the sign of a beach. It's a ocean, it's waves, it's flowers. There's all kinds of photos that you could use. So you can talk about an image. You can talk about an image, an interest, a hobby. Let's just list all the hobbies that we can think of and find out one that happened to you. A great thing to start with is, what were your extracurriculars in high school? So I will be happy to create some questions that you can pass on. So another thing that we are seeing, in addition to increased family relationships, is increased technology. I am sure that you guys, and me included, have learned to use lots of new technology in the last little while. We're all very familiar with Zoom now, and we weren't necessarily before. But here's the trick. Now that we know how to use them, we're going to be expected to use them even more. So Skyping with family members is not going to stop. Now, the family members that come every day, no, we're not going to Skype with them. But the family member in Ohio, when we're in Texas, yeah, we may want to Skype with them every couple of weeks. So we're going to see that continue trend. Also, because of these wonderful psychosocial outcomes that we're getting, we're going to want to continue to see one-on-one tablet technology being used, sitting with residents, flipping through images on Google Images. And, you know, this is even a fun thing to do. Last night, my husband was flipping through Google Images of motorcycles, and we were talking about the different kind of motorcycles. And I found myself laughing because I was asking him questions like I would ask one of the residents. Tell me about that motorcycle. What do you think would be a good name for that motorcycle? Where would you ride that motorcycle? And he started laughing at me because he realized that that's where I was going, was trying to engage him in a conversation about the motorcycles, which is what we're doing with those tablets that we are getting out and using and connecting. Okay, in-house TV channels. If you don't have an in-house TV channel, I highly recommend it. We are seeing so much more involvement in our in-house TV channel than we have with in-person activities. I'll give you an example. We have a wellness director on campus who works primarily with our independent living and does exercise classes regularly throughout the day. when everything shut down. We shut down that building, we shut down the gym, and she started doing it on our in-house TV channel. We have found more involvement in her exercise programs online than we ever have in person in the classroom. And I think you all would agree, if I can not have to get all dolled up to go to the gym, that's even better. You know, the gym can be intimidating, and being around these residents that are more physically fit than I am, and if I have some sort of impairment or some sort of deficit, that can be really embarrassing that I don't want to interact with them because I can't stand up and they are all standing up. So having that digital in-room exercise program is actually bringing more involvement than it is otherwise. We're also having more opportunity for cross-campus connection. We had a CCRC, so all across our campus, we all get the same TV channel. So one of the things that we're doing is bingo. I am not a big believer in bingo, but I believe there's a time and a place for bingo. So on our in-house TV channel, we were playing bingo. So what we did is we handed out disposable cards to all the residents on campus, and at the top of the card was a phone number. So when they bingoed, they would call that phone number, and we would check their cards and bring them a prize. So in the health center, it would be hallway bingo, where we would be checking around the hallways. In our memory care, they were checking in their room. So they wouldn't necessarily call, they would provide the prize themselves. But one of the things that happened was one of the residents in independent living got a bingo. They called in. Hi, you're on the phone with the point. Did you get a bingo? Woo, congratulations. Where are you calling from? And the resident introduced themselves. They're from the independent living. Well, over in the memory care floor, we have a resident who used to be in independent living. Hey, that's my friend Bo. I haven't talked to him in so long. I miss Bo. Hey, Bo. And he started talking to the television. He is used to doing virtual activities. He's talked to his family a lot on the television. So he's calling out to his friend. So that initiated us to reach out to Bo. And we had our life enrichment activity directors calling Bo to make a connection between that resident and his old friend that hadn't connected in a while. So we're seeing lots of things happening in lots of different areas that are able to come together because we're doing the same activity as one instead of individual isolated activities on each floor. Free resources. Oh my gosh, there are so many free resources out there. I don't know if your inbox is blowing up as much as mine is, but there are free resources coming out the woodwork. One great thing about that is they're not going anywhere. So the links may disappear, but we will always be able to go back and look up the Cincinnati Zoo's hippo training little class thing where they teach us about the hippos. We'll always be able to have that for us. I got a chat here. I'm trying to keep up with that. Telecom is a great way to increase communication between residents and out-of-state family. Telecom, yes, that is a good one. So there are lots of different programs out there that you can use. Some are HIPAA compliant, so you do need to pay attention if you're going to be talking about HIPAA things, or if it's just going to be a social visit. So thank you for that comment. I welcome comments, y'all. Totally jump in with a comment. So those free resources aren't going anywhere. We will always be able to go back and look up videos of things that were happening during this time. So I highly encourage you to remember those, make a list, but we are all inundated with it. So I'm gonna inundate you even more. I've got one more list of resources for you. Kathleen, if you will pull up that resource list for me. My Dr. Pepper here.
I am working on that. Just give me 1 second here. I have to figure out how to share something else. Here, we'll just make it happen here because I can't figure out how to share my other computer. So I will just pull it up real quick for everyone. So I sent everyone the link. Her free resources are available on the Seniors Blue Book website. And hopefully the link is just right here. It's not, but that's okay. We will get there real fast. So it's in our COVID-19 resource articles, and it is right here, opportunities for connection. And I will be putting the video here as well later. So you'll be able to see that, the webinar again. And here is the technology checklist and the resource checklist. So you can go here, you can actually download each of them. Which one do you want to see first, Hayley?
We'll just start here since you're already here. So
Okay.
what I've prepared for you guys is a technology checklist of all the things that you could have or should have in your community so that you can improve the meaningful engagement with your residents and create better outcomes. In-house TV channel. Did you know that even if you don't have an in-house TV channel that you paid for, some setups will allow you to jerry-rig it? So NCAP, the National Certification Council of Activity Professionals, created a video, and there's the link. That first link there is it's a how-to video to connect to go into your media room that has all the wires and cables, and you go and you can disconnect a channel and reconnect a laptop so that you can play whatever you want from the laptop on the in-house TV channel. So one of the things that I had recommended was they got rid of the Cartoon Network because most residents don't feel validated by cartoons. I couldn't do that at my facility because I do have one resident who watches cartoons all day long and he loves it, and I would not take that from him. But the Cartoon Network, not necessarily the Cartoon Network, is a great thing to take away because it's not going to be used very much in a senior living community. And they plugged in their laptop, and so now she goes to the media room and does a video of her exercise program every morning, and they can see it in the rooms by turning to what used to be the Cartoon Network. So you would need a few things for that. You can go to YouTube for the video, or you can go to ncap.org for some step-by-step instructions. Video conferencing membership, that's always really good if you're going to have meetings. I've used several of those. Skype and FaceTime, there are some YouTube videos there for how to use those if you've not used those before. Connecting a laptop to a television, it's amazing how many people don't know how to do that, but once you know how to do it, you will use it every day. That's even great for you at home. If you want to watch, you don't have a smart TV and you want to watch a movie on Netflix, you pull up Netflix on your computer, use an HDMI cable to connect your computer to your television, and you can watch Netflix on your big screen TV through your laptop. So how to do that as well. And then there's some optional things, an Apple TV. We were using an Apple TV the other day, and we do have some small groups in our dementia area. And so we had the way that worked is we were FaceTiming with the resident's daughter on our phone, and we would mirror it to the television so that the residents can watch the television instead of the phone, because the phone is small and it's hard to see, but when it's big on the screen, they can see it nice and clearly, and the audio comes to the TV, so we can make it really loud so they can interact with the television instead of with the teeny tiny phone. And the family member, we would hold the phone up, and the family was able to see the resident. Even though the resident wasn't making eye contact with the phone, they were still able to see it. So we were able to do that. We were able to draw the family tree on the board, show the family member the family tree, and they could help make connections and connect things in. So an Apple TV is a really cool thing if you have an iPhone or an Apple iPad. It does not work with any Android products. There's a way to jerry-rig it, but it's really complicated, so I didn't give you those instructions because it's I don't know how legal that is. Tablets are really great to have for those one-on-ones times to sit with a resident, and that's always a really good thing for a CNA to use, to take that tablet and hand it to her, to set it up, to start the program and hand it to the resident and let the resident continue. There are a lot of really great apps out there for dementia. There's tons of lists out there, so I didn't feel that I needed to give you a list. I recommend that if you're going to follow zoos, museums, landmarks to see what they're doing, you could get a paid Facebook page for your activities that could follow all those things. You could also choose to have an activity department post things on the Facebook page. Activity Connections membership is a paid subscription that I use with lots of videos, activities. I mean, the whole world is at your fingertips with Activity Connections. And Alexa, a Google Home Smart Hub, another similar product, are also really great for in the rooms. One of my favorite success stories with the Alexa, we had a young man who was in his 60s who was paraplegic. He was recently paraplegic, and it was a very traumatic story. But he was very particular about his television. He was pressing the call light to have the staff come in and increase the volume of his television when the show came on. When the commercials came on, he was pressing the call light to have them turn down the volume of the commercials. So can you imagine every, was it 2 minutes and 20 seconds, 2 minutes and 2 seconds, he was pressing the call light again because the commercials were over and the show was back on. So it was a constant need for him to come in. So we got the Alexa and we set it up with a second program that escapes me at the moment. And so he would say, Alexa, turn the volume up. Alexa, turn the volume down. And he no longer needed the call light. He had the independence to change the TV volume. He could also turn on and off his lamp. He could turn on and off his fan. And he sat there and played blackjack all day long because he loved blackjack. And you can tell Alexa, let's play blackjack. She gives you a card, you say, hit me. She gives you another card, you say, hit me or stay. And you can play blackjack with Alexa. So there's some really cool things there. A Bluetooth speaker to make things louder. iPods and MP3 players are great for individuals. The Music and Memory program is a fantastic program if you can get that started in your community. And as you all know, the CMP grants are paying for those right now. So I want to talk about CMP grants. So you're looking at, oh my gosh, Hayley, you're asking me to buy all this technology. No, how do I do this? All right, well, let's go to those resource links. Civil money penalties grants are available for technology specifically. And if you will scroll down for me, stop. It's at the top of, there you go. You'll see the application at the bottom of page 1. There is this, that's the CMS application to receive civil money penalties for tablets. They'll give you, I think it's up to $1,000. Don't quote me on that, where you can apply for money and they will help you pay for technology. And it's specifically for tablets and laptops. You have to fill out some information about how you're going to deal with infection control, how you're going to store them, how you're going to keep up with them, all that stuff, how you're going to use them. But you fill that out and you can get a grant. And this is just for long-term care to provide all those for you. So here is a whole list of this resources. Most of these you probably know about: Consumer Voice, American Health Association, quality monitoring programs. There's some resources in here for some virtual tours, things like that. So this is for you guys to look over and use however you need. But the big one that I wanted to make sure you had was that CMP grant, so that if you needed those technologies, you could do that. Okay. So if we go back to the PowerPoint.
Just before we leave this page, you are you president of the of one of the Activity Professionals Associations that's on this list?
I am president of the Activity Professionals Association of Greater Dallas.
Okay.
So that's not on this list because if you go to us, we refer you to NCAP and NAP. NCAP is the National Certification Council for Activity Professionals.
Okay, perfect.
Which is at ncap.org. And you can go to the National Association for Activity Professionals, which is nap.info. And I've just put both of those into, I'm going to put that to all attendees, is ncap.org and nap.info. So you've got those two websites there in the chat box now. We can go back to the PowerPoint, please. There we go. Okay, so we are seeing also the next thing that's coming is virtual volunteerism. We love our volunteers. We want to use our volunteers. And how do we do that? So we need to start thinking about what this is going to look like in the new normal. And let's skip ahead 2 slides to the virtual volunteer. I'm paying attention to time here. 3 slides, I mean. There you go, virtual volunteerism. So the first thing we need to think about when we're making connections is we need to continue to connect volunteers to our community, and we need to connect our residents to volunteers. And of course, our volunteers to our residents. So the first thing we need to be thinking about is how do we keep up with our existing volunteers? How do we make those connections? We need to be sending out letters to volunteers. We need to be reaching out to them. We need to be providing them with opportunities. So there are a few things that you can have volunteers do. We have one of our volunteers that comes every Friday, is still coming every Friday. She is not allowed on campus. She goes to the median out front, in front of the main building, and she puts flowers in this big cross. It's a chicken wire cross, and she fills it with flowers every Friday, and then she comes back and replaces it. So when we look out our window, we can see the beautiful flowers that she's provided. So she's continuing her volunteer services. You can have volunteers vetting programs for you, watching videos. Hey, I have a gentleman that wants to learn about using a lathe. He's not going to do it, but he wants to learn about it. So I want you to go look up, hey volunteer, I want you to go look up videos on lathes and send me a list of YouTube links that I can just go into his room and click the YouTube links, or set me up a playlist and I can go in and set up a playlist. And then I can leave him for 30 minutes watching video after video after video about lathes, and I don't have to continue to advance it, and I don't have to screen it or monitor it ahead of time. Another thing virtual volunteers can do, one of the issues we have is our volunteers are older usually, so they can't necessarily use the technology that we are all using in the facilities. But there is nothing wrong with the good old-fashioned telephone. So when we think about our staff and how taxed we are already with all these one-on-one visits, with all these residents in rooms, with all these jumping from room to room to room to try to meet everyone's needs, we don't have time to sit and talk to a resident for half an hour, but a volunteer does. So can we go into the resident's room, call Julie, our favorite volunteer, at her house, and Julie can sit at her house in her easy chair, and our resident can sit in their room at their easy chair, and Julie and Mrs. Johnson can sit and have a half-hour conversation on the phone. We'll dial it for them. We'll help them returning their phone to the cradle, but we don't have to sit there, and they're going to get a meaningful moment of engagement using a good old-fashioned telephone. We're also receiving an onslaught of new volunteers. So kids that are making signs for us, making cards for us. Everybody wants to help. But how can we do that? How can we continue to use these volunteers to make connections with our residents, even after volunteers are already allowed back on campus? I want to introduce to you guys the idea of video volunteering. So right now, my friend Jewel, who is on the phone right now with us, is doing a virtual movement program called Nia, and we put her on the screen in the living rooms, and we have small groups of 3 to 5 residents. We just got that release that we're going to start doing small groups because we do have no COVID cases at CCM. And they are doing her program with her. She can see them, she can talk to them, she can engage with them. We can do that with volunteers too. We can have a volunteer doing a video violin, playing the violin for him. One thing that we worked on with the SMU Meadows Foundation is one of their volunteers did a video chat with us, and we put the tablet on the table, and the volunteer was talking about paintings about beaches, and she was showing paintings of beaches. Well, our residents at the table had sand and shells, and we were playing in the sand and shells, and we were making little scenes and little vignettes with the sand and the shells while she was talking about beaches. Another time she was showing paintings, and we had paints and paintbrushes and canvases in front of us, and we were painting while she was talking about painting. So having a virtual volunteer leading an event with the residents is a very realistic option, even when things open back up again, because now I can chat with an expert. I can chat with somebody who works at the Smithsonian with my residents, and we don't have to pay for travel expenses. So virtual volunteering and video volunteering is a real option. You can also see about families. We're kind of using our families right now as video volunteers. One of the fun things that we did a few weeks ago or last couple months ago, we had a family call in and we did a Zoom call or a Skype call with them. And they had a box of fake snowballs, those little cloth plush snowballs that they're advertising right now. And they sat at home and they threw snowballs at mom's iPhone, the children. And here on our place, we have residents with snowballs throwing snowballs at the television screen. And so we had a virtual snowball fight. What a great opportunity to do that with a group of preschoolers, to have them throwing snowballs at the screen and have residents throwing snowballs back at them. The same thing, having reading partners. You can do reading partners virtually. We had a program before COVID where we talked to a English class in, not Czechoslovakia, overseas, let's say that. There was a group of adults who were learning English overseas, and we were video chatting with them, teaching them English. They were working on conversational English. So I had a resident, we had 6 laptops, and we had 6 tablets and 6 residents who would all sit at a tablet with a non-native English speaker who was learning English and then having a conversation. And the residents are very patient. Now we can even do this with a resident that has dementia, because those how are you? It's good to see you. All of those are still in there. They can have these routine and rote conversations just fine. So we can use those skills and they can teach somebody English. How meaningful and engaging is that, to be actually helping somebody on the other side of the globe learn a new skill? I just get so excited talking about it. So these video volunteering opportunities are going to be used so much more right now, and they're going to continue to be used even after COVID is over. So, and of course, all of these volunteers create support and awareness within a surrounding community. So we are going to continue to see our communities being better taken care of and better recognized because of so many people understanding what we are going through. So I did not talk on, and I will just touch on, thank you, Kathleen. Compliance. One thing is, because we are not doing group activities, we also can take this time to work on our compliance. We do need to be documenting everything we're doing. If we are technology overload, Bradley just brought that up, yes. Technology overload can very much be an issue. We do need to disconnect. We do need to step back. We do need to find times to have quiet, just like we talked about earlier. Not everything has to be technology. Compliance. So resident council continues to happen. Resident rights continue to happen, even though we are in a different time, a different world. We are documenting every day what residents we are chatting with. Every time we offer a video chat, we have to document it, because like we all know, if you don't document it, it doesn't actually happen. We need to be re-evaluating our volunteer policies. Do we need volunteer screening? 3 years from now, do we need to continue to screen volunteers for temperatures? That's a real question. What visitation policies do we need? Do we need to be screening them for, have you had a cold? We think about flu season. I've been at a facility where we've had to quarantine for flu season. It's a real thing. So when flu season comes, do we need to be having more policies and procedures in place? Infection control. Now we are seeing a lot more increase in infection control a lot more often. And it may remind you, have I been doing infection control all along? Do we need to have more policies in place? Do we need to have more procedures in place? Do we need to have a supply chain in place? So we need to look at compliance through all of this, because that does not go away. So through all this craziness that is happening, we are seeing lots of great opportunities. We're seeing increased positive psychosocial outcomes. We're seeing residents be more engaged. We're also seeing residents be less engaged. I don't want to negate that. We are seeing residents who have had decline because they're not able to be involved. but there is hope that we can continue to bring these strategies that we are using now into the future to pull out those residents who are on that verge of maybe not able to engage in groups, maybe not even able to engage in small groups. But those strategies we learned today, we can use tomorrow, we can use a year from now, we can use those strategies until they leave us and bring them out of that shell again. We're seeing increased family relationships. We're seeing more casual conversation. We're getting to learn more about them. And we want to take advantage of that time to really beef up our social histories of our residents, to get that information from family so we have more tools in our arsenal so that we can better connect with the residents. We're seeing increased technology, and that's not going away. Technology is the new normal. I have been using technology in my programming for 10 years now, if not longer, and it's not going anywhere. It's just going to get worse. As baby boomers come in, they're going to expect it. So we all need to be ahead of the curve to make sure that we have that prepared for our residents in our facilities. So you have got the 2 handouts, the technology checklist, and the resources for managing activity service that I'm sending to you guys. Anything else? Any questions? Anything else I missed on the chat?
If anyone has questions for Hayley, if you want to just indicate in the chat your question.
I am putting my email address in the chat box. You are always welcome to reach out to me. If you have any questions, if you want ideas, if you're struggling with anything, I am a nationally certified consultant, so I am able to speak to other facilities about what's going on. I do work with a consulting firm, so if I can't help you with that, I can relate you to the director of the firm who can get you more information. I do encourage you, if your activity professional is not engaged with the community, to visit apagd.com to be a member. We have membership meetings with CEUs every other month. So that is a great opportunity. And also Active Times is the consulting company that has CEU opportunities available. So you can follow us on Facebook at Active Times, follow us on Facebook at ccyoung.org, join the group Activity Professionals Association of Greater Dallas, and you can see lots more resources and opportunities for CEUs, opportunities for classes, links to a wonderful thing. So lots of resources out there available. I am so happy that I could be here to speak to you all today, and I hope that you are able to take something back with you to use and really put boots on the ground and continue to improve your program and support your residents and your staff during this time. Virtual pets, I love it.
I know, it sounds so awesome. My pet is asleep on the floor, actually, by my feet. And
we have actually just purchased a robotic cat. We've got 2 robotic cats, and we have budgeted for a couple more robotic animals. And we actually have had some really great successes with that. We have one resident who every time he comes in asks us to feed the cat. So we have to go get creamer and feed the cat every day. So that's been really fun.
Awesome, awesome. Well, all of the chat comments are really awesome here. People are saying awesome presentation. You give us hope. It was so educational. Thank you. Great ideas. Hayley, I think that you are just so passionate about what you do, and I think it's contagious. I think that a lot of us are going to leave here with some great ideas and some ways that maybe we can contribute to some of the senior isolation that's going on. So I really do thank you for that. I thank Hayley, and I thank Jen Griffin from CC Young Senior Living for making this happen today with us. And I thank you all for joining us as well.